Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Black Ops 2 In Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the DSR 50 sniper rifle. This is the big boy in the sniper rifle group, the high damage one-shot kill 50 caliber monster that just blows through everything in the game. This is my personal favorite sniper rifle, and I've had a little bit of gamma juice, so I may sound a little bit more upbeat today than usual. Let's talk about the damage on this weapon. This is the highest damage sniper rifle in Black Ops 2. Nothing really competes with it in terms of raw damage. It deals 98 damage per shot. You only have 100 health, and this deals 98 damage. That means if you shoot somebody, they have 2 health left. That means if you throw 2 flashbangs and they poof and boom, because the little poofs do 1 damage each, and then shoot them in the toe, they die. If they've been nicked by any other gun and you shoot them and they die, if they've fallen just a little bit and take a little bit of damage and you shoot them, they're gonna die. Very, very high damage sniper rifle, but as we discussed in the previous episode, this isn't necessarily the most relevant thing for sniper rifles because sniper rifles have built-in body multipliers that determine their one-shot kill ranges. So what I've done for you is I've put together these absolutely beautiful graphs that don't really have anything on Xbox Ahoy's graphs that I know look better, but mine has a dog and it's cuter. If you shoot somebody in the head, that's a one-shot kill. A neck, that's a one-shot kill. Upper chest, which is it starts at a little bit below the pectorals and up, that's a one-shot kill. Funny enough, the upper arms kind of gets coded into that, I'm not sure why. If you shoot them in the belly or midsection where the guts are, that's a one-shot kill. If you shoot them in the groin section, which would be kind of like from lower abs down to testicle area, also a one-shot kill. Legs are 2. This is something I read online. It says arms in general, lower arms, also a one-shot kill. I didn't really get a lot of one-shot kills with the arms, and I'm not too sure about that, but that was in the literature, so I included that. If you put a suppressor on this weapon, or silencer, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't really change anything, except according to what I've read anyway, the lower arms are not one-shot kills, though I never had good luck with that anyway. In short, there's not really much of a penalty for running a silencer on this weapon. I know the last 2 sniper rifle, not the last, well, the SVU also didn't really have a penalty for running the silencer. This one really doesn't. The next ones will, so I say that this is an excellent weapon for running the silencer, even though I don't typically do it because I'm hard-headed, and you're mostly going to get one-shot kills unless you're shooting somebody in the legs, and occasionally in the arms it'll do something funny, but it is a one-shot kill monster and your silencer penalty is very minimal. In hardcore mode, this is always a one-shot kill. This is the highest damage sniper rifle with the highest penetration in the game. When you shoot somebody, it does enough damage to kill them 3 times over. Even when you shoot them through a wall, it has the highest wall penetration of all the sniper rifles and the highest damage, so it's got good wall penetration. And in hardcore mode, since they have less health anyway, you're pretty much always going to one-shot them through the walls. Sometimes if it's like a really thick wall at an odd angle, maybe 2 shots, but typically 1 shot. However, I don't think that this is a good weapon for hardcore just because it shoots so incredibly slowly, and the SVU AS is the sniper for hardcore. Just one-shot kills just as good and shoots faster. If you really absolutely must have one-shot kills and you really like shooting through walls, maybe, but this one isn't terribly practical. Despite being very heavy, and in past Call of Duty games like Modern Warfare 3, where the heavier sniper rifles had different movement speeds, this one has the same 95% movement speed as the SVU, as the Ballista, and the XPR. The run speed is the same as all the other sniper rifles, so despite being a huge gun, you're still able to run at the same speed as the other snipers and the assault rifles. So now that I've harped on the damage and all the other good attributes of this weapon, I'm going to tell you its major, huge downside that makes it difficult to use, and that's its rate of fire. It shoots at 50 RPM. That's 50 shots per minute, or a little bit slower than 1 per second, which is brutally slow. This is the slowest firing sniper rifle. It's almost the same speed as the Ballista, but just a smidge slower. This is very, very slow, so you have to make your shots count. If you miss, it's going to take almost an entire second to be able to shoot again, and as you've seen in previous episodes, the time to kills can be very, very fast, so they can kill you about 5 times over before you get your second shot. You have to make your first shot count with this weapon. The recoil I would like to talk about, but it's not really applicable. The weapon shoots so incredibly slow that by the time you're getting ready to shoot your second shot and you've stabilized the weapon and you're aiming down the sights, it's not really an issue. The weapon almost always resteadies completely by the time you're ready for your second shot, so the recoil isn't really a factor. The idle sway, I would say, is fairly stable. Maybe I like it just because this is my sniper of choice. It doesn't seem to have the funny kind of wobble as the SVU or the Ballista or the XPR. This is my favorite for idle sway. The actual numbers are pretty much the same as the rest of the other sniper rifles, but I kind of like the feel to it. I don't know, it's a very subjective thing. There are attachments that change the recoil on this weapon, and they're different than the ones for the SVU. The suppressor will increase your recoil by 10%, the variable zoom by 6, the dual band by 5, and the ACOG by 10. I have positive numbers here, but that's not a good thing. That's positive recoil, that's plus more recoil. However, as we discussed earlier, that's not very practical because it shoots so slow. Maybe with the ACOG, because you're probably going to be rapid firing with that anyway, or shooting almost as fast as you can, you'll feel it a little bit, but it's not terribly important. These attachments do not change your recoil at all. The ballistic CPU does not change the kick of the weapon, but it does greatly alter the idle sway. I did an entire episode on that. You can find that down in the description. The laser sight does not change the accuracy when you're aiming down sights or anything. It just heightens up your hip fire a little bit. Hip fire is pretty sad anyway, so I don't think that's going to make the biggest difference, but it doesn't change the accuracy. FMJ does not increase the damage of this sniper rifle. I've had a lot of people sending me messages telling me that they found what FMJ does with damage and that it changes the multipliers and that you can kill people in the legs or the toes or something weird when you run FMJ, and I tested and tested and tested, and this is not true, but FMJ does help you shoot through walls better. It basically removes a little piece of coating that lets you wall bang. If you like shooting through walls, if you know that enemies are going to be behind cover and you would prefer to aim for like the chest area that's behind the wall and not necessarily the head that's peeking over, use FMJ and you can wall bang like crazy. This is the best gun for it. It's slightly better than the other sniper rifles, but still the best, but it doesn't increase your raw damage. You're not going to be able to get one-shot kills to the legs with this one. As mentioned earlier, the hipfire is very poor. This is probably the worst one for hipfire. The hipfire box is just as big as all the other sniper rifles, meaning that it's inaccurate, but it shoots the slowest, and it has probably the wonkiest feel for it when you're hipfiring, so I'd very highly recommend not to hipfire or no-scope with this weapon, because even with the laser sight, you're not going to really hit anything, and the laser is not where your bullet's going. It just changes your cone a little bit. You can check out the laser episode, which may also be in the description, or you can search for it. I like the default scope on this weapon. Kind of funny, I say I like the default scope, but most of my gameplay is me goofing around with the various scopes. I kind of like to get different gameplay to show you all the different aspects of the weapon for in-depth. Typically, when I use this weapon myself, I just run the default scope on it, just the regular zoom. I like it, I'm comfortable with it. If not, maybe variable zoom. The other ones don't float my boat quite as much. Aim down sights, in and out time, same as the other snipers except for the ballista. The ballista is a little bit faster, but this one aim down sights in 4/10 of a second, a little bit slow, kind of hard to quickscope with. Reload time is the slowest. This is the big boy in the bunch, so it has the slowest reload. 3.4 seconds to go through the entire animation, and 2.5 seconds to do the reload cancel time. I always recommend reload canceling. It saves you almost an entire second. You can do that just by sprinting forward whenever the gun recognizes that the bullets are in, and it loads in the little counter in the bottom right hand corner. But do be careful when reloading. Fast mags isn't going to help you a lot. My bad, not fast mags. Extended mags isn't going to help you a lot. You only get 2 extra bullets. It brings your magazine count up to 7, and you reload slower. I would almost always go with fast mags with this weapon if you're going to run some kind of magazine based attachment. This is the sniper rifle of choice for people that really hate hit markers. This sniper rifle is just not going to get hit markers unless you're shooting people in the legs, like groin down. The ballista will get hit markers, the XBR will, the SVU certainly will. This sniper rifle doesn't get too much in the way of hit markers. As long as you aim nuts up, you're gonna get one-shot kills, maybe unless they're hiding through a tank or something. If you don't like hit markers, use this sniper rifle. It can be used for quickscoping. It's a little bit, I would say, slower handling than the ballista, which is the more common one for quickscoping, and it doesn't shoot as fast as the XPR, but because you're going to get way less hit markers, some people do use this one for quickscoping. I talked to FaZe Cross. It's really more of a ballista world for quickscoping, but this one does have quickscoping applications. Just so long as you hit nuts up, no hit markers, no problems. If you can quickscope, this one will work fine, and it doesn't need many attachments to be good, which is kind of funny because I use a lot of attachments on it and in depth to kind of show you all the weird little ways to use the gun. But when I use it, I most often use it either with one attachment or with no attachments. I'm perfectly comfortable running it with no attachments. Depending on the map, I might put a variable zoom on it if I want a lower level of scope. I typically don't run the ACOG, I just don't like it that way. Ballistic CPU is always excellent if I want to do long range sniping. It really just drastically reduces the idle sway on the gun. I don't play around with the dual band too much. I'm usually leaning toward either one of those. If I'm doing something kind of crazy like an ACOG class, I might stack on fast mags for reloading or laser sight or something, but this gun really doesn't need attachments to be good. It's very powerful as is, especially if you want to sit in the back and snipe like an old man, or faggot hard scoping, as many of you would like to say, the kind of sniping that I learned how to do. Excellent for that. Our class build kind of emphasizes this. I'm going to run no attachments on it. The secondary weapon is going to be my trusty TAC-45. I know you've seen a lot of B-23R in this video, which is abnormal for me, but I've already completely maxed out my level on the TAC-45, so I'm trying to level up the other secondaries. Run whichever one you're comfortable with. I like the TAC-45. All the other ones are good. I run flak jacket because I like to old man faggot hardscope somewhere, which means that I like to camp, I like to sit up, I don't like to move with this weapon, so people are throwing grenades at me like crazy. I don't like getting blown up. I also like capturing objectives, so that keeps me from getting blown up. Toughness is essential. Sniper rifles have less flinch in this game than they have in previous games, but they still do flinch a bit, and if you run toughness, it really helps keep you on sight. It's almost unfair how much it helps. Dexterity, I'm a dexterity addict. I admit it, I can't get along without it. I like climbing, I like recovering fast. That's just, I could probably junk dexterity in favor of tactical mask, but typically I run them both together because when I'm camping, people also throw lots of flashbangs and stuns at me, and I don't like to get affected by that very much. I just like for it to not affect me, and I can pull out my secondary weapon and smoke them in their faces. It works great. The grenade setups that I typically run, I'll usually run like 1 shock charge or 2 shock charges and a Simtex or a regular grenade. I don't like bouncing betties, they just seem a little bit cheap for me. But the shock charges allow me to camp, and the regular grenades allow me to pound objectives when I need to, and overall it works pretty well. Well guys, that's all for this episode. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you learned something useful. If you'd like to check out my previous episode, which was on the SVUAS, you can click the box on the left, that'll open in a new window. And if you'd like to check out my next episode, which is going to be on the Ballista, the quickscoping machine, you can click the box on the right and open that one in a new window. I do admit I have not used the Ballista hardly any in this game, so I'm going to have to try to master it very quickly over a couple of days, and there may be a little in-depth gap if I can't do that fast enough or good enough. As always, if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. And I have one little bonus for you here at the end. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the other commentator, Nero Cinema, but I was asking for the platypus artwork or just some photoshopping stuff in general. Actually, yeah, it was for the photoshopping of Ozzy on Twitter. And he says, I have MS Paint, what do you need me to make you? And I'm like, all right, Nero, for you, I want you to draw me a T-Rex trying to pick his nose. About 3 minutes later, I got this picture back. I thought it was funny, so I thought I would include it in the video. Nero, you are a true artist. Drifter out.